Hello, everyone, and welcome to Matchmaking Monday. You're here with TFC president and also matchmaker H2O. So, today we're going to be talking about some of the matchmaking that should happen in TFC. And we're going to start off first with the flyweight division. As you can see, Riker's the current champ with one title defense. And in my opinion, his next fight should be against Kieran. Kieran's a newly added fighter on the roster. He is a young, hungry fighter who is physically bigger than Kieran. Physically bigger than Riker, more imposing. Riker does have better submission skills, but Kieran is just a bigger opponent. And it's an opponent that I believe Riker should fight. He's a younger guy, and honestly, it could prove to be Riker's biggest challenge yet. And many claim that the flyweight division has been held in a chokehold due to the fact that Riker hasn't fought in a while. But then you got to consider the fact that his last three opponents was Ethan twice, who he won via submission and TKO, and Gene, who he won via submission. So there's not a lot of guys for him to fight. Skyler, coming off the number 3 ranked, is ranked third because there's not very many people in the division to begin with. But also, he just came off of a tie with Riley, and there's no point to feed him to the wolves. So that's my opinion for flyweight. For bantamweight, you have fighters like Anderson the Caveman, who's the champion. His first title defense is scheduled to be against Jaden El Rampajo. But if that fight matchmaking doesn't end up happening, because there's talks about Jaden not being able to fight for TFC 11 fight card, then he should fight his first title defense against Ethan White Ghost. Ethan and Anderson are both 0-2. Well, 1-2 and 0-2. They both are good fighters, but have had just good opponents, and they'd both be a good looking match for each other, and it would be entertaining. I think the next move for Peyton would be to fight against Riley. I think that Riley came off of a tie, which he almost won the fight, but got a point taken away, so he ended up tying via criteria. And Peyton just came off a submission loss to Anderson. Peyton and Riley both have very little grappling experience, but I think it could be a very entertaining matchup. Then you have Braden, who's yet to make his debut, but he would be a good matchup against possibly Skyler, or Braden would also be a good matchup against possibly Anderson or Ethan. That's just a couple ideas. I think for now, Skyler gets a break because he just had a tie match, and I think you shouldn't rush fighters to greatness, but Riley's very adamant about returning to fight. At featherweight, you have the People's Champ, who is scheduled to fight against number 3 ranked Seth, and that'll be a good matchup. Seth just had a big submission win over Noah, and that puts them two in line. I think Lewis needs to fight again. I think Lewis should possibly get a match against JL. Many people were thinking number 2 versus number 4, but Noah lost to the number 3 guy, and Lewis is a very, very good grappler, and Noah has very little grappling experience. Noah is primarily a boxer. So Jaden's out of the equation right now. People talked about an immediate rematch, but Jaden talked about going down to Bantamweight to capture the belt, and as you can see, TFC roster has him ranked 3rd at Bantamweight. So that also puts into question who should H2O fight after Seth, and who the rest of the division should fight. And I think JL should fight Lewis for the number 2 spot. I think that the winner of them faces H2O. JL did lose his only loss coming to the People's Champ, and Lewis's only loss came to Jaden. But I think Lewis wins. There's talks about H2O possibly moving up to 155 or Lewis possibly moving up to 155 because they both are part of the same fight team. And the winner of that could fight for the belt. If JL wins, then that puts JL a rematch against H2O. But if Lewis wins, that puts H2O in a position to possibly move up and start a 55 division. So that could be an interesting addition of the lightweight division. Then you go down to Kotoweight. The newly crowned Drew Big Mac just had his first technical win over someone else a very long time ago. Apparently, they said this was TFC 1. It was a bare knuckle match, not sponsored by TFC at the time, but I guess TFC vice president implemented that it should have been a win, and they crowned him as champion. So he's the first crowned champion without having a fight, besides Riker the Striker, who had his first fight against Ethan. So that is quite cool. He is a champion. I think his first title defense should be against Enrique Kanakatak, because he is 0-0. He's a young guy, and they both weigh about the same, and they both have very little grappling. Enrique was recruited from wrestling, but he doesn't know much submissions, and Drew is more of a stand-up guy. And like we said, mentioned with JL being ranked, I think JL has prior intentions with the featherweight division still, and I feel like he'd be kind of small, 65. Then you go up to heavyweight. You have Sam Maui, the number one guy. Sam is out right now. He's unable to fight. So instead of stripping him, we're going to be doing an interim belt, and it's going to be Jaden Carolina versus Ashton Ketchum. So Jaden the Bull versus Ashton would be a good matchup because they both had really entertaining matches, and Jaden's an entertainer. He's really good to watch. Everyone enjoys him. He's arguably the most entertaining fighter in TFC. So matchmake him with Ashton, both guys that lost to Sam and want a rematch against him, is nothing but good lineup, good matchmaking. But that leaves Jax J Boogie, the only other guy undefeated, out of the equation. So you give the loser Jax and the winner Sam, and then Jax Sam next. Unless Sam's going to be out for a while, then you give the winner of these two for the interim belt Jax, because Jax deserves to fight for the title. He's 1-0. He's young. Then you give the loser of these two Cassius, because Cassius needs a comeback fight, and that'd be a good match to have. And that's all the matchmaking for today. Now we're going to go on to UFC matchmaking. So we're going to start off with the champions in these divisions. I think Joshua Van's next fight. People talked about him fighting Manuel, because Pantoja's going to be out for a while. You could have him fight Manuel. You'd have him fight, what's the young guy? What's his name? This guy. I want him to fight Hyogi Huachi, the guy that left the division when he fought DJ the last time. I think that'd be a banger matchup. And he's Unk, but why not give him the title? He's 35-5, guys. Why not give him the fight? Why not give him the title fight? Plus, he's fighting on he's fighting on an upcoming fight night. That's cool. Did not know that. So that's the match to make for there. Then you have Pantoja make comeback fight put him against one of the top 5. Don't give him Brandon Royale or Brandon Moreno, but give him like Manuel, and then the winner of Manuel and Pantoja fights the winner of Joshua Van and what's his name, and Higoyi. Then you have Marab versus Pirion. Marab will be champion again. Marab will show levels to this. He'll beat Pirion in the trilogy. Then you'll have Marab versus probably Umar, because I think that's a fight to make. And then or Marab versus I think Corey versus Sean is a good match to make as well. Then you could sneak Peyton Talbot. You can argue that Peyton Talbot could get a fight against Song Yadong. They both have been pretty popular. Song Yadong did just come off a loss, but many argue he could have won. So maybe you could argue that he could get a title shot if Marab doesn't get it done. But I'm certain Marab will. Featherweight. Volk, if he wins against Diego, Volk needs to fight Molzvar. But I know Molzvar and Leroy are talking about fighting each other. But if that doesn't happen, Volk needs to fight Molzvar. Molzvar's been the number 1 contender for a year and a half. And yes, he's not the most active fighter, but he's the number 1 contender. When you're the number 1 in your division and you don't get to fight for the belt, it doesn't make sense. All right, then we'll go up to lightweight. All right, so there's 3 champions, guys. If we didn't know, I don't even think this is updated. I might go to this one and see if it's updated. Flyweight, bantamweight, featherweight, lightweight. Okay, yeah, it's updated here. So, Ilya Taporia, the champion, 17-0. Unify the belts, thing 1, obviously. Once the belts are unified, cool. BMF winner fights for the belt. Call me crazy. 3 belts in 1 division is insane. This is reminding me of boxing, where all the different boxing titles and dudes fight to unify all of them. No. I like that idea, but I don't like the fact that there's 3 different belts in one division. Arman's clearly the guy that should be fighting for it. But I think Ilya fights Justin. I'm sorry, Justin. I think you're going to get murked. It's cool that we have a U.S. champion again, even though it's on the interim. But Arman needs to fight. Maybe the winner of these two, honestly. Maybe he fights for the BMF belt. But honestly, I personally think we wait. I know. We wait a little longer. Let Justin fight Ilya. Then once that's over and Ilya wins, 18-0, give the winner of these two, give the winner of Charles and Max, the winner of them two, Ilya, and Arman fights the winner of that. And Arman fights a tune-up fight in the meantime. In the meantime, maybe he could fight someone like I don't know, Charles. I believe Charles may be retiring after this BMF. If Charles wins the BMF belt, then simple as that. After that, Arman fights for the title. But if not, then maybe Arman fights for BMF belt. Arman did just have a really sick escape and submission over Dan Hooker. He looked really good. And if we're going to give another jiu-jitsu guy a chance to fight for the BMF belt, why not Arman? Or if not, then maybe give Arman Gamrot, or give him, I don't know, a lot of guys in the division are coming off a loss. Maybe give him another guy just to tune up. I don't know, though. Maybe he just waits, keep doing what he's doing, wrestling and all this stuff. I don't know. And then we got welterweight. We got Islam. Okay. A lot of guys deserving a title shot. What's his name? Guy just got ranked. JDM versus Carlos Prates. Then you got Islam versus Ian Gary. Shavkat versus Michael Morales. Boom. Easy matchmaking. Let's go to middleweight. DDP needs a comeback fight. No, I don't know though. Maybe Anthony Hernandez versus. Isn't Anthony Hernandez fighting Sean Strickland? Winner of that fights for the belt again. We sidelined the French guy. I think people are talking about the French guys are going to get submitted, but maybe Cosmot versus the French guy, then the winner of that fights that. Or maybe the winner of this fights DDP for a #1 contender fight. Go up to light heavyweight. These are tied for #1 contender fight, or #1 contender, which is pretty silly. Give me Alex Pereira doesn't defend his belt. So, I think Alex Pereira is talking about going up. But if he stays, I don't know. I don't know. Who deserves to fight for the belt? Ankalaev, maybe. Ankalaev, they're 1-1. Ankalaev just got TKO'd. I think Pereira fights Yuri because Yuri's on the 2-win streak. Or Carlos is on a 9-fight win streak. He can do it. That's fine. That could be a match. But I don't know. I don't know what to think of that match. I think maybe these two fight for the #1 contender spot, like the true #1 guy. And then the winner of them fights Carlos and Pereira. Or Pereira moves up a division, like everyone's talking about, and fights for the belt. And then becomes the first ever 3-division champion, which would be super cool. Oof. Curse Blade is out. Tom fights someone in the top 5. Simple as that. Waldo Cortez might fight for the belt next. He's on the highest win streak in the division. Okay. Pound for pound. Yes, pound for pound. And that's it. Thank you guys for watching. And I hope you guys enjoyed this matchmaking video. And tune in for more. I'm going to try to do this every Monday.